On June 13, 2025, Israel shattered the Middle East's fragile balance by launching Operation Rising Lion, a direct massive strike against Iran. The world watched in disbelief as the skies over Iran lit up, signaling a new and dangerous chapter in the region's history. This was not just another covert operation, but a bold public display of military might that sent shockwaves far beyond the Middle East. For the first time, Israeli jets openly targeted Iran's nuclear facilities and top military leaders, ending decades of shadow warfare. The strikes were precise and devastating, crippling key infrastructure and sending a clear message to Tehran. Israel's decision to go public marked a turning point, exposing the high stakes and deep-rooted fears that had simmered for years. The world now faces the real threat of a regional war, as the conflict moves from covert operations to open confrontation. Tensions soared across neighboring countries, with military forces placed on high alert and citizens bracing for the unknown. The sense of uncertainty was palpable as governments scrambled to assess the rapidly evolving situation. Israel declared a national emergency, bracing for retaliation, while Iran's leadership vowed revenge amid chaos and uncertainty. Streets in both countries emptied as people sought shelter and leaders addressed their nations with fiery rhetoric, promising to defend their people at any cost. Global leaders scrambled to respond, but nuclear talks collapsed instantly, leaving a dangerous diplomatic vacuum. The United Nations called for emergency meetings, but consensus was elusive. The world's most powerful nations found themselves at odds, unable to agree on a path forward as the crisis deepened. Years of Israeli fears over Iran's nuclear ambitions culminated in this bold, risky move, one calculated to stop what Israel saw as an existential threat. The operation was the result of months of planning, reflecting the deep anxiety within Israel's leadership about Iran's growing capabilities and intentions. The stakes are now higher than ever, with millions at risk, and the world economy already feeling the shockwaves. Markets plunged, supply chains faltered, and ordinary people everywhere began to worry about what tomorrow might bring. The impact of this conflict is being felt in homes and businesses around the globe. The key question: can anyone prevent this crisis from spiraling into all-out war? As diplomats race against time and military leaders weigh their next moves, the world holds its breath, hoping for a solution before it's too late. Before dawn broke, a massive aerial operation unfolded as more than 200 Israeli jets, including advanced F-35 stealth fighters, soared across the skies. The coordinated strike force targeted over 100 strategic sites deep within Iranian territory, catching Iranian defenses off guard and overwhelming their early warning systems. The primary focus was the Natanz nuclear facility, widely regarded as the heart of Iran's uranium enrichment program. The site suffered extensive damage, with satellite images revealing destroyed infrastructure and fires burning for hours. Other nuclear sites, though identified, were left untouched for now, possibly as a warning. Simultaneously, Israeli forces struck military bases, missile depots, and air defense installations in several major Iranian cities. These precision attacks crippled Iran's ability to mount an immediate response, leaving key military assets in ruins and severely degrading their operational capacity. In a devastating blow to Iran's leadership, several top Iranian generals and prominent nuclear scientists were killed in the strikes. The loss of these high-ranking officials has thrown Iran's command structure into disarray, sparking confusion and panic at the highest levels of government. Tragically, civilian areas were not spared. Bombs struck residential neighborhoods in Tehran, resulting in casualties and widespread destruction. Families fled their homes in panic, rushing to stock up on essential supplies as emergency responders worked frantically amid the chaos. The sheer scale and precision of the attack have sent shockwaves throughout Iran and the wider region. As the world watches, Iran is plunged into crisis and uncertainty looms over the Middle East, with global leaders urgently assessing the potential fallout from this unprecedented escalation. Israel insists Operation Rising Lion was a last resort act of self-defense, claiming Iran was on the brink of building nuclear weapons. With diplomacy stalled and intelligence pointing to rapid Iranian progress, Israeli leaders saw a closing window to act. By targeting both infrastructure and key personnel, Israel aimed to set back Iran's nuclear ambitions by years. The US opposed the strike, but its hardline stance on Iran may have emboldened Israel to take this unprecedented risk. Iran retaliated within hours, launching over 100 drones at Israel, most intercepted, but the message was clear: Iran would not back down. Ayatollah Khamenei quickly replaced slain commanders, projecting stability and vowing harsh revenge. Iran suspended nuclear talks and pledged to accelerate enrichment, hardening its stance against international pressure. On the streets, fear and patriotism mixed as Iranians braced for more conflict, facing shortages and uncertainty. The regime's resilience is now under its toughest test as it tries to maintain order and respond to Israel's provocation. The region stands on the edge of a wider, more dangerous war. The Israeli strike sent shockwaves worldwide, instantly dominating headlines and sparking urgent conversations in capitals across the globe. Newsrooms scrambled to provide updates as millions tuned in, anxious for the latest developments. Governments responded with a flurry of diplomatic activity, convening emergency meetings and reaching out to allies and rivals alike. The crisis demanded immediate attention, forcing urgent diplomatic and economic responses. The U.S. condemned the attack in strong terms, but also issued a stern warning to Iran, urging restraint and caution to prevent a dangerous escalation that could spiral out of control. Meanwhile, Arab states and global powers called for restraint, emphasizing the need for dialogue and de-escalation. Leaders from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East urged all sides to step back from the brink. Oil prices surged nearly 9% overnight as fears of disruption in the vital Strait of Hormuz rattled global markets and sent shockwaves through the energy sector. The sudden spike fueled inflation and economic anxiety, with consumers and businesses bracing for higher costs and uncertainty about the future. Airspace across the region closed, flights were canceled, and travel plans were thrown into chaos as airlines scrambled to reroute or ground planes for safety. U.S. personnel began evacuating from nearby countries, with embassies reducing staff and military convoys moving to secure locations amid growing uncertainty. Hezbollah condemned Israel's actions, but for now, held back from direct retaliation, weighing the risks of igniting a wider regional conflict. Militants and armies across the region remained on high alert, wary of any move that could spark a broader war. For millions in the Middle East, the shadow conflict has erupted into an open crisis, disrupting daily life and sowing fear about what comes next. With lives and futures hanging in the balance, families and communities brace for the unknown. The world watches anxiously, hoping to avoid catastrophe as the region teeters on the brink, uncertain of what the next day will bring.